Okay, so let me skip back one slide if I can. It's a bit of a lag on my computer here. Okay, so we'll start the presentation with a land acknowledgement. And we acknowledge the land we're coming together on. It's not quite this evening, it's this afternoon, but the traditional territory of many nations. Collectively, this land might be referred to as Turtle Island, but each of the peoples who've lived here for thousands of years may have their own name for it. In Toronto, this is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. In Kingston, it's the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas, and the Wendake. And in Montreal, it is the land of Kaniak and Kanaka, along with the Mohawk and the Haudenosaunee. If you're joining us from somewhere else, we wish to acknowledge the people who lived where you live, who drink from the waters where you drink, and who have slept under the same skies for such a long time. These lands are now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples.
We are your training and support team. So we're in charge of training of the routes, also of support and safety as well. So I'm Steve Yates. I'm the guy on the left, the big guy, and Geoff Gibson is on the right. In our kit, as we were about to head up to Ottawa and back a couple of years ago, and we couldn't do that first of the two missed rides.
And we'll just do a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. The first is a list of the supporting aid service organizations that you're supporting by being part of the bike rally. Talk about some upcoming events and our winter training, what's happening with winter training, although we only have about a month left of that. Outdoor training, which we're all looking forward to starting in April. The experience on the bike rally, the ride itself, what you can expect. And finally, the most important thing, your fundraising. So we've got Ricky and Kevin on the call. So Ricky, do you want to tell us a bit about ACCM? I'm putting you on the spot, I know, because you hadn't planned this. But anyway, ACCM, I'll start talking, but Ricky, you can interrupt me if you want, or Kevin. ACCM is the only English-speaking AIDS services organization in Montreal. They've been part of the bike rally now for 4 or 5 years, I'm guessing. So participants who are residents of Quebec in general are fundraising for ACCM. And Randy Davis says that he is in this picture. Congrats, Randy. In Kingston, we are fundraising for the HIV/AIDS Regional Services, HARS. They operate in Kingston is where they're headquartered, but they actually serve a very large region around Kingston. And not only are they involved in HIV and AIDS services, but also harm reduction and addiction support services as well. And of course, the founding sponsor, the Toronto People with AIDS Foundation, for whom those of us in Toronto are raising funds for. PAWA has been around in Toronto for more than 2 decades, and now the bike rally is the biggest single source of funds for the PWA Foundation. So it's a really important backbone to supporting people living with HIV and AIDS in the city of Toronto.
So for first-year riders and for everybody, there is a set of seminars, clinics, meetings, events that will run through the spring right up to the point of the rally itself. So we have some dates here. Not all dates are determined yet. Rider safety meetings, March 20th, 2 p.m., April 4th, 7 p.m. These are mandatory for first-year riders. They're basically the tricks of the road of staying safe when we do have to ride with the sharks and the traffic. And it can be quite safe for people who are worried about it. Flat fix and hill climbing. Everybody must learn how to fix their own flat. Most cyclists do, some cyclists don't, especially new people. We do have help. On the actual ride itself, there is a mechanic's car, and there are cars going back and forth, but there will be about 200 riders. So people really do not need to know how to fix their flat. Also on the training rides, the first training rides, we have minimal help. You'll have basically sweeps behind you, and if you get a flat in that case, you really do need to know how to fix it, or at least have a credit card for an Uber. As we get further along in the spring and we have longer rides, then of course we have more help, but that's still important. Hill climbing, a lot of people are intimidated by hills who haven't been riding before, and we have some training for that, which will help you, and those will be in May and June. The big meeting has not been determined as far as the date's concerned. That is a compulsory meeting for everybody. And the big meeting is where every detail is described that is left over. There will be team socials. So whoever your team is, there will be team socials decided by the team as far as meeting and what you're going to do. The training rides start on April 2nd. We guarantee that the temperature will be at least 15 degrees, that there will be no precipitation, and the roads will have been swept and will be perfect.
Can you put that in writing, please? I'm kidding.
Well, I do it in invisible writing.
Oh,
So it's possible that it may not be wonderful. However, no matter what, as long as there isn't snow or whatever, the first ride will be April 2nd. For the month of April, there's one ride each weekend, and there's another training ride that we haven't listed here. It's a ride for people who feel nervous riding in the city, or just worried about hills, or just haven't experienced a long ride. It'll be a no drop ride. It will happen because the rides are either Saturday or Sunday. It will happen on the other day of the weekend. 25-kilometer ride through a set course in the city, no drop, so we stay together. It will include the elements that you would expect in a training ride, including hills, left turns on a roadway, and as well as bicycle etiquette and bicycle safety. So all of those things will be there. And if you need it or want it, it's a good way of giving you much more confidence on the road. Partner discounts and events. Cycle Solutions has discounts for Friends for Life riders all year, and there will be some others coming up to be determined. And the packing day, to me, that's one of the most fun days, and we'll be talking about that later. That's the day before we actually leave, and it's kind of an event in itself. Winter training. So for a couple of years before 2019, we were having spin classes at the YMCA. The Y gave us the spin room to use, and several people, including myself, led spin for winter training twice a week. This year, we thought maybe we could do it online. I mean, it was pretty dicey running a spin class online. It's not like running a class that doesn't include equipment, because everybody has to have their equipment. So Geoff and I thought maybe we'll get 3 or 4 people doing it. And I am a certified spin instructor, so for me it was kind of fun. I have my setup at home. So we tried it, and it's been doing really well. We had 19 people this morning, so it was a good turnout. We died. It was really hard, as it should be, and it's very, very good training, and it's good pre-training before you do the ride in April. So there's another month of it to go, and you can email training@bikerally.org to find where it is. It's a matter of letting us know that you want to do it, then we will send you the Zoom link.
and if you don't have a trainer to attach your bike to, the PWA office still has a few left to lend out if you want to borrow one for the rest of March. You can just contact the PWA office and we'll give you their email address at the end of the presentation. So what should you be focused on for your winter training before we get out on the road in April? Well, you want to focus on building endurance by increasing your effort and your timing, how long you spend on activities like outdoor cycling, if you're brave enough to be out there in Toronto where it might still be snowy and icy on the roads, or if you're lucky and you live in California, you can train outdoors all winter, right? Of course, you can have indoor training on a stationary bike, which is partly what the Zoom spin is for. But even if you want to just do it on your own indoors on a bike, that works too. And if you don't have an outdoor or indoor bike setup for the winter, then walking or running outdoors or indoors also good, and lots of other activities. Someone suggested shoveling snow might be one, for example. But just get your cardio strength built up as much as you and keep it there as much as you can in the winter so that you're not struggling at the beginning of spring. Um, Focus on building your strength, particularly your core strength. Your core muscles are what hold you up on your bike and keep you moving. And then focus on flexibility as well. If you're into yoga or just general stretching, you want to look at stretching your body and keeping it limber so that you're ready to ride in April outside. We do have some winter training tips that are posted on the Friends for Life Bike Rally Facebook group. There's a link here in the presentation, but if you just go to Facebook and look up Friends for Life Bike Rally, you'll see that every week Steve and I have posted links to different articles on stretching, on riding outdoors, rider safety, nutrition for cyclists, and so on.
So outdoor training, as we already said, they start Saturday, April the 2nd. 10 a.m. from the Kipling station, and we'll start with a 35-kilometer ride to Courtney Park. So the way the program works is we start at a fairly modest distance, and then we will be upping the distances as we go through the months until we reach certain thresholds. So it's assuming that people are going to do not all of the rides, but are going to do the rides regularly. So there's one ride a weekend in April and then 2 rides every weekend from May up to the beginning of the rally. And the Saturday start times, they change as the rides get longer. So they go from 10 a.m. in April up to 9 a.m., then 8 a.m. And they become earlier because the rides are longer and also the days are hotter. So we want to get an earlier start. Sunday start times are always 10 a.m. because Saturday night, and also because of the subway. Rides start with announcements to begin with, and also you want to sign in. So it's best to arrive 15 minutes early. There will be a COVID screener and a waiver to sign, and you do that in your phone on an app that you'll find out about later. We just got a chat. Yes. There is a training schedule. Geoff, do you want to jump in on that?
Sure. So if you go to the Bike Rally's website at bikerally.org, on the upper menu, you'll find an option for the calendar, and you can just click on the Bike Rally calendar, and we've actually got all the training rides now posted on the calendar, so you can see what each ride is. You can click on the ride and see what the distance is, and then if you want to do your own thing, you can just sort of mimic that distance on your own ride somewhere else if you prefer. But we've got all our official training rides posted and ready to go. Keep in mind, for those of you who are relying on the calendar as the source of where to go, when to train, the rides are likely to change sometimes only a week or two before it happens because of the subway schedule. Toronto is afflicted with subway closures every weekend, pretty much all summer. So we have to switch the ride start location and the ride itself so that everyone can get there by subway who wants to do that, and they're not stuck taking a shuttle bus that you can't fit a bike onto. Let me back up one slide. Sorry about that. And hopefully it'll stay on this one. Okay, so if you are going to participate in the outdoor training rides, highly recommended, whether it's on your own or with us as a group. Mandatory items. First of all, you have to have a helmet. We will not let you join a training ride unless you are wearing a bike helmet. You must bring spare tubes for your bike. Each bike has its own requirement in terms of size of spare tube. If you're not sure what your bike requires, just take your bike into your local bike shop and ask them. They will tell you right away what you need, and hopefully they'll have them in stock as well. So stock up on tubes. For me, with the amount of cycling I do every year, I go through 5 to 10 bike tubes a year typically. It's kind of frustrating, but it happens. You hit rocks and you get flat tires. Make sure you've got tire levers as well. Those are the little plastic doohickeys that they're in the picture there somewhere. It's hidden on my screen, but the little plastic levers that you use to pop the tire off the rim so you can get access to the tube when you need to replace it. Make sure you've got a bike pump as well, or you can bring CO2 cartridges so that you can inflate the tube that you replace. You should bring water and ideally electrolytes as well in a separate bottle. So electrolytes might be sugary Gatorade, or it might be just electrolyte powder mixed with water. And bring some nutrition, some snacks. You won't be getting food from the bike rally on your training rides. There will be some places to stop to buy food, but it may not be sufficient. So bring a Cliff Bar or two or some other energy snack that you like. Wear your sunglasses. The sun can be pretty bright, and make sure you've got sunscreen so you avoid sunburn. Bring your health card in case of an emergency. Bring a mask and hand sanitizer in case you have to go indoors to a store that requires you to wear a mask or sanitize your hands. Please bring your cell phone with a good charge on the battery. And of course, in order to follow the route, you need to have the cue sheet or the map printed out, or you can load the GPS route onto your phone or onto another GPS device to guide you through the route. The most important thing to say though here, we've gone through this long list, is if you don't have something on the list, you probably need it, and you should probably get it soon before people start running out to the bike stores and buying them in spring and they run out. So get these important items sooner rather than later. So what are the milestones? What do we expect of you as a bike rally participant for training? We want you to have done at least one 40-kilometer ride. That's 25 miles for those of you in the States by May 15th, 2022. An 80-kilometer ride, that's 50 miles by June 26th, 2022. And two 100-kilometer, that's about 60 miles, back-to-back rides. So one day after the other by July 17th. So that, in other words, by July 17th, you'll have done an entire weekend, for example, Saturday, Sunday, each with at least 100 kilometers a day. If you just do those 4 rides, if that's all you do to train for Montreal, do one 40-kilometer ride, one 80-kilometer ride, and two 100-kilometer rides, you'll probably be a little out of shape and you'll struggle on your way to Montreal. You can see from the little chart at the bottom here that we've got some pretty long days ahead of us, and it's 6 days in a row. So my suggestion would be, especially if you're new to cycling and this is a big challenge for you, try to allocate and reserve at least half of your weekends from April to the end of July to focus on training and to be on your bike and to ideally do the training rides that we've got scheduled for you. All the training rides in Toronto, by the way, they'll have experienced cyclists as sweeps who are at the back of the ride. On the longer rides, we'll have not only the 2 cyclists at the back of the ride following all the riders, but we'll also have a car that's got a couple of people in it, so that if you call, there'll be an emergency number to call. And if you need help, you'll either have the car on the longer rides or the bike sweeps showing up to help you. I should also just point out for the people who are training in around Kingston and Montreal, there will be some training schedules set up for you as well. So just keep your eye on that on the Bike Rally webpage and the e-news.
Outdoor nutrition. So you have to feel your body. People have different approaches to this. The standard approach is to eat before you ride, because you're going to be covering, in a typical ride, you're going to be covering at least 35 kilometers and then up to 120. And you want your body prepared for that. And longer rides, lots of carbohydrates, because you're going to be chewing through those. Snack fairly frequently. You'll be taking in carbs in a meal beforehand, but that's not going to last. And on a long ride, particularly snack frequently, and a full meal somewhere in the middle of the ride if it's a very long ride, like 100, 120, 130. And that, of course, would be lunch. And on our longer rides, in fact, there usually is a barbecue halfway. And during the ride to Montreal, there's a lunch halfway as well. And the food is usually generous. You probably won't lose weight doing this. Also, eat a full meal an hour after riding. Your muscles are recovering. They need the protein to build, and that fairly soon after. Drink lots of water, 1 to 2 liters per hour. They say so, like a water bottle. That'll depend on the temperature and how you feel, but if it's cool and you don't feel like you're taking in much water, you probably are taking more than you think you are. And so you should get yourself to drink more water if possible. I find that's a struggle for myself. Electrolytes are good. You can use Gatorade, very heavy on sugar. Now Geoff's approach is he likes the sugar, he wants the sugar. For me, I don't particularly want all that sugar, so I use a powder electrolyte, which I put in the water. The electrolyte is important. to keep your muscles firing. It may help if you're prone to cramps. Um, Avoid things that are diuretics like caffeine and alcohol. Um, to me, caffeine is very important. I really like coffee. And so sometimes I don't obey myself on that. But just as a rule of thumb, you do want to avoid that. And once you've finished riding, your body's still going to be demanding more water. So just keep drinking.
So let's talk about the experience of doing the ride to Montreal. This is where it gets exciting. And for those of you just doing the 1-day ride, bear with us. We're going to talk about the 6-day ride generally. What's shown on this screen right here is the 2019 Bike Rally Handbook. That was sort of all the details that we all needed to know the last time we rode to Montreal. And there will be a handbook printed again this year, the 2022 handbook. I'm told it'll be by the end of April. Maybe the early May, if things get a bit delayed, there'll be a handbook for you. So if you have questions about the bike rally, chances are they'll be answered in the handbook. And of course, if they aren't, you can always reach out to your team captains or anyone else on the bike rally steering committee who can help answer your questions. So meals on the bike rally when we're riding to Montreal, well, it's pretty good. We have, in the past, we've had Starbucks coffee available every morning. They've got their little coffee tent set up. We typically have lunch set up, like Steve said, at the halfway points every day. The photo on the lower right there is showing people eating in Kingston. When we get to Kingston, we actually get to eat in the university cafeteria for lunch and also the following morning breakfast. So because we're not outdoors at a campsite. The only thing about Kingston, because that's a short day where we arrive there at lunchtime and we're free for the rest of the afternoon, is that we're all on our own for dinner. The bike rally does not provide dinner in Kingston. Every team will have an option to do dinner in a restaurant typically as a group, but that's optional. You can join if you want, or just do your own thing in Kingston for your meal. Of course, along the route from Toronto to Montreal, there are break points as well. Typically there's one before lunch and one after lunch, but on our longest day, which is the day 2, there are actually 2 break points before lunch and 1 after. And at the break stops, you'll find a really good selection of snacks, refill on your water, your Gatorade, and of course people to chat with. And there'll also be a washroom facility, typically a porta potty, not the best, but better than nothing, right? At every rest stop along the way as well. And of course at the lunch stops too. So what are the accommodations like on the bike rally? Well, as you can see from the pictures, it's tents. We sleep in tents for 4 nights on the way to Montreal. Make sure you've got your own tent and make sure that it is somewhat waterproof. You might want to test it by just spraying some water on it with the garden hose and seeing how it holds up. Because sadly, there have been a few nights, not very many, on the bike rally where we've been sleeping in tents and it has rained on us. And in fact, when it's rained really hard, that's happened once or twice, some people's tents flood and that's really unpleasant. So try to get yourself a tent that's reasonably waterproof, or if you need to, you can cover it with a waterproof tarp, that kind of thing. So first, second, 4th, and 5th nights on the ride, we are in campsites. Campsites, typically, they all have washrooms with flush toilets and running water. It's just sometimes those are really far from the tents. So there will also be porta potties. The exception is day 1, where we're sleeping in a farmer's field in Port Hope. The option is only porta potties and little wash stations that are set up next to them. For showers, on day 1, there is a school bus that takes us to the sports facility in town where we can shower. All the other campsites have shower facilities on the site. Again, it's only a few and they require typically loonies, sometimes quarters to operate, and there will probably be lineups to shower just because there are a fair number of people who get in at the same time on the rally. So be patient. Or if you prefer, every campsite has water access, so you can always just jump in the lake if you prefer to just clean off that way. Just don't take any dangerous chemical soaps and stuff into the lake, please. So that's pretty much it for accommodations, unless Steve, you wanted to add any points?
No, I think the points I'll add will be on the camping gear.
All right, here goes.
Speaking of which, camping gear. So number 1, of course, is the tent. Although Geoff did allude to a few rainstorms, we've had a couple that are spectacular and are worthy of stories to tell our grandkids. And there was one, well, we won't go into it. We'll wait till we're sitting around the campfire. The point is, if your tent is watertight, you're good in any storm. And also, if you use a tarp under your tent, um, and you haven't done a lot of camping, make sure you learn how to use the tarp underneath. But that's another story. Um, Plastic tent to store the tent fly should it get wet, just common sense. So it's nice to have a chair in camp. We're going to be packing all our stuff into 2 large bins, big Rubbermaid bins, which you'll see on the next slide. And you only have that much space, and you have to carry everything back. So your bicycle will be brought back from Montreal in one of the trucks, but you're responsible for carrying everything else back. So you have to think about that when you're choosing what to bring. And so maybe you can bring a chair if you don't have a lot of other stuff. Some people have things like important things like little plastic white picket fences to put around their tent, and also plastic flamingos and other important things like that. And so just judge how much space you have to bring it back. Air mattress or sleeping pad, uh, that's also important because you want a good sleep. So whatever will give you a good sleep, and people have different needs for that. The ground is usually pretty good where we are. Folding bed frames are not allowed because they take up too much space, and we really are tightly packed, even with the big trucks. Pillow, sleeping bag, sheet, towel, toiletries, the usual stuff that's in your pocket, ID and money, loonies, etc. Oh yeah, loonies for showers, don't forget. Cell phone, there will be charging facilities usually. Um, sometimes, sometimes they set up charging facilities, but they may fill up. Earplugs and alarm clock, because some people like to stay up till 11 o'clock and some people like to get up at 5 o'clock. So depending on how good a sleeper you are, you may need them. You may need both of them. Flashlight for sure to get to the washrooms at night. A headlight for the bike. It's very unlikely you will be riding at night. You just never know. Camera, oh yeah, a duffel bag or knapsack to bring gear back. Knapsack will not bring your gear back. It's going to be a duffel bag or two. I use two duffel bags to come back with. 2 half-size duffel bags. Just one little note on that. My first several years, I had a huge duffel bag from MEC. It was great. Everything fit into it. But when I picked it up, I'm not that heavy. I tended to fall over. So 2 half-sized big duffel bags, one for each side, works a lot better. And as I mentioned with the pink flamingos, supplies for activities related to daily themes or evening activities, or maybe a costume or two that you need, that sort of thing. Packing tips. Okay, so bicycle packing, if you're on your own, would be very stringent, and it's fairly stringent in this case. The first thing is what not to pack. On day one, you're going to be wearing a day one jersey, which you will get on packing day, and you'll probably want to bring. You should bring sunscreen, and you may need nutrition, although that'll be supplied. Your helmet and bike shoes. It's tempting to pack everything to put onto the truck, but don't pack those things because you're going to need them day one and you won't want them in the truck. This is an obvious thing, but people do. Now, suggested here to pack into daily Ziploc bags, 6 bags, 6 outfits, 6 pairs of socks, etc. You don't really have to do that, and in fact, you can cut your load by only doing 3, so that when you get to Kingston, you go to the laundromat and you wash the first set. But the idea of putting them in plastic bags is a great idea, because when you get up in the morning, you're already set, and you've done that at home, so you don't have to think about it. That's just one way of doing it. Pack, you need the duffel bag, which we mentioned. The duffel bag is also good when you go to the laundromat. A backpack, if you're carrying a backpack, is good for that too, because you won't have that much laundry. There's a wash and fold there that you can use. There are laundromats in Queen's University. You may have different belongings for your return to Toronto. Maybe a different pair of pants, different socks, shoes when you get out of the bike stuff you've been wearing. So pack those as well to return. Other little bits and pieces, duct tape. Earwigs love getting into your bins because they have these little holes They were designed to be exactly earwig size. They were designed for the earwigs. They will get in the holes on campsite. So duct tape is good to seal those holes. Luggage straps to prevent the bin from opening up. Occasionally a bin will fall off, a pile of bins, and may open up and things will spill out. So a luggage strap is a good idea. It's up to you. Newspaper is a really good idea because if it does rain, we guarantee that it won't, but that's written in invisible ink. If it does rain, your feet may get wet and your shoes may get wet, and you want to make them keep the shape and dry out more quickly. That's where the newspaper stuffed into the toe works. Yeah, and that's it for that.
Okay, and a question from Wendy, do one-day riders need to pack anything at all? And I think the answer is no. If you're riding just to Port Hope and then taking the bus home the same day, you're asked to not pack anything that will land in Port Hope when you get there. Just bring everything you need on your bike, and then you can bring it all home when you leave Port Hope that night.
Yeah, you'll be coming back on a bus, which is provided. So you don't even have to get into a separate outfit or anything like that, unless you want to. So.
Chad's question, what are the dimensions of the bins and how many do we get per rider? Okay, I'm going to back up 2 slides because there's a good picture of Gilbert carrying a bin. So now you get a sense of, Gilbert's a pretty average guy. He's maybe 6'1" or something, right, Steve?
Yeah, he's a little shorter than me.
Okay, so about 6 feet tall. So there's a sense of how it is. I would say that would be maybe 2.5 feet wide, 1.5 feet tall, and 1.5 feet deep. So they're not huge, but certainly if you have a folding tent, it should fit in there, your folding chair. And you get 2 of those, of course, 2 per rider. So that gives you a sense of how big it is. I think when you get the Bike Rally handbook, it actually has the dimensions in there, if I remember correctly. They say what the dimensions of the bin are, so you can make sure nothing that you own. Like, for example, some people have really large bike pumps that they try to bring on their rally that won't fit in the bins. Not a great idea if it doesn't fit. And of course, the Bike Rally has lots of bike pumps. I actually went to their storage locker on Friday and counted 8 bike pumps that the Bike Rally has, and they all work. So you will be fine. You won't need to bring.
There are also mattress pumps too.
And I'm talking, and the Bike Rally has mattress pumps for your air mattress. So I'm talking about the really large floor pumps that some people bring. Of course, you need to, when you're riding every day, including the first day, you need to have your own little hand pump or CO2 tubes to fix your flat tire. But the large pumps that people like to use to reinflate their tires or that the mechanics use, those will be available to you. So you don't need to bring one of those.
Okay. Luggage and gear. So this is packing day. On the left, you can see all of the trolleys, the containers that we have. We have 2 of those. This is at the very beginning because hardly anybody's packed up yet. All those will be packed up, and so you have also labels. If you look in those containers, you can see on the sides there are labels. You will be issued labels. Actually, you'll be issued a package of 2 jerseys, one for day 1, one for day 2, labels for your bins, other miscellaneous things, the identifiers and so on. So before you pack, you'll put those labels on your bins, and they will have a letter of your team and your name, and they'll be on all sides. It can always be identified. The 2 will go on. You can see on the right side, 2 are being picked up, and they're being carried to the truck. And then the people who take care of the Rubbermaid bins, who are called the Rubbermaid Rustlers, I'm sure there'll be a movie, a Western about them at some point. They put them on the truck. You don't do that yourself. They do that. And they place them carefully. And that's where you do not put your sunglasses that you're going to wear on day 1 inside your bin, which goes to the very back of the truck when all the others are loaded on. And that's happened. And of course, I won't admit to having done that, but I did do that once. And so your bins will be packed on the trucks. Each truck will be identified by a letter, so you'll know which truck to go to. And that's actually just a very streamlined way of doing it.
So, and in terms of the bins, by the way, they're big and they fit a lot of stuff, but you may want to try to pack lightly if you can. You can see on the left side, they do have dollies that allow you to wheel the bins around, although those don't work very well on bumpy campsites. The bins tend to fall off them. So my advice would be don't pack a lot of really heavy things like encyclopedias. Gold bars are typically a bit too heavy, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Steve's tried to bring his pet rock collection another time and that made his bin too heavy.
And if you
So
bring an electric train, make sure it's battery powered.
yeah, so in seriousness, try not to pack your bins too heavy because then it makes it tough for you to lift, and it's also a bit tough on the rustlers who have to load them onto the truck. So we've got road support on the bike rally itself too, and they're great. It's either people who are riding motorcycles who are zooming up and down the route to make sure we're okay. Sometimes they're on the corners holding the signs like David is there, telling you where to turn right, for example, or turn left or whatever the direction might be. In fact, the entire route to Montreal is well signed. So typically you won't need to rely on a map or GPS, although you should have them as backup in case you get lost. And then some road safety people, they drive around in minivans and they wear interesting costumes like the one on the right there. So if you see someone standing on the side of the road who looks like they don't belong because they're wearing something a little out of place, it's probably road safety, or road support as we call it now.
For example, in our very first year, when we got to Brockville, Jeff and I were ahead of the pack, and so there were no cyclists visible. It was a rainy day, it was cool. There was a corner where we were to turn right to go to a break. Across from the corner, there was the Tim's. It was filled with people watching our direction guy on the corner. He looked like it could be somebody's uncle, past middle-aged uncle. And he was sort of squat, compact. He's wearing a Hawaiian skirt. He's got a coconut bra on, so clearly he's Hawaiian. But there is no visible reason why this man is standing on the corner in this drizzle. There was a reason later, but as far as the people in the coffee shop were concerned, he was just a bank guy dressed like this, and it was actually really funny. But that's how you know where you have to turn. Besides the formal signs with the arrows on them.
Yep. And in seriousness, if you do have a problem on the ride to Montreal with your bike, a mechanical breakdown, for example, or you don't feel well and you can't keep riding, that's when road support comes in helpful as well, because the ones who are driving the minivans will be able to stop, help you out with your bike, pick up your bike if it's not rideable, and pick you up if you're struggling to ride as well. And on top of that, we want to get everyone into camp by a certain time. I think it's usually 5:30 every evening to make sure we all get there for dinner. So if you're riding a bit too slowly, you might get picked up by a road support van and driven into about 1 kilometer from camp, and you'll just ride the rest of the way in from there. Doesn't happen too often, and don't worry about it. People struggle all the time on the ride to Montreal, so you won't be out of place and you don't need to feel bad about it. The road support is there to help you. We've got health and wellness supporting us as well on the ride. That includes, you can see on the right, we have a team of chiropractic students typically who offer massage and chiropractic services. On the left, we've got yoga sessions that happen every day in camp so that you can stretch your body after you ride. There's also a team of registered nurses who drive their own special health wellness van that will help people who might be ill and stuff like that. So very important and very helpful part of the ride.
Social activities. This isn't really a typical day. This is the short ride day, which is where we ride into Queen's University, and it's called Dress Red Day. It used to be called Red Dress Day, but really it's Dress Red Day, whatever. This of course emphasizes the whole thing of AIDS, the red ribbon on steroids in effect. And so most riders are wearing red of some kind. A lot of riders are wearing dresses, skirts, whatever. And it's really popular. It's fun. It's especially good when you get to Queen's University and the line for the line for lunch, because we haven't changed yet. And I do remember one year where the military was there as well. So it was a mix of men in red dresses and men in military uniforms and fatigues, which was kind of interesting. On the right, we have a talent night. So there's something happening every night. whether it's something like talent night or whether there's one night where we have a celebration where we on the beach, a candlelight event where we talk about why we're riding and memorialize people that we have known and so on. So there are social activities that you can take part in or you can completely ignore. It's up to you. There's no pressure.
Yeah, and even the dress in red day, I've never actually worn a red dress per se. I'll just put a red bike jersey on so I have the right color, but that's as far as I go typically. Steve has done the actual dress one year, but it didn't work out too well. He stopped doing it. I'm kidding. He looked fabulous. It's just, to be
Yeah.
honest, riding a bike and wearing a dress, I find that a bit difficult. So I haven't quite learned to do that properly. Okay, so let's talk about the most important topic for the day, and that's fundraising. And here we've got a picture of Yannick, who is our fundraising co-lead. He's just on his own this year. He is there to help you. That basically, if you are worried about your fundraising, you're not sure where to start, you're not sure how far you can get, you're not sure who to ask or how to ask them, Yannick can certainly help you out. We have a dedicated fundraising page on the Bike Rally's website. You can see the link there. And you can reach out to Yannick at fundraising@bikerally.org. And he's happy to have a one-on-one session with you online to chat with you about what he can do to help you improve your fundraising. So it doesn't have to be difficult. So, but the key is to get started soon and to make your plans and get ready to go. When you tell people what you're doing, tell them that, of course, that we're raising funds for a very important charity, the Toronto People with AIDS Foundation. Tell them why you're riding and tell them why PWA is an important charity, what it is that they do. So get to know PWA a bit. You'll find resources for that on the Bike Rally page and, of course, on PWA's own website as well. You'll want to make sure you customize and personalize your own fundraising page. That's what you log into on the Bike Rally site. Add your personal message, your photos to encourage your donors to know that they're helping support you in this important cause. Go after your first, it says fist, but first few donations from people who you're sure will be making donations so that you've got a solid base to start with, and then reach out to the people who might be less likely. They'll hopefully be encouraged to see, wow, this is something that's really happening. People are donating. I should too. I want to be part of this. And you'll see that after you've got your first few donations and you've developed sort of I guess a routine or a way of raising money, it'll be easier to get more as you go forward. So like I said, Yannick is there to help, fundraising@bikerally.org. He would really like to help you be as successful as you can with your fundraising for the Bike Rally. And trust me, that's one of the rewarding parts of doing this ride, is to know that when you're riding to Montreal, that you've actually been able to make an important difference to the aid services organizations that you're raising funds for. So get ready now. Start fundraising and be ready with your fundraising page set up. The fundraising deadline is June 30th. That's when we want you to raise your minimum, which for first-year riders who are doing 6-day ride is $1,750. For one-day riders, it's a $600 minimum. The important thing to keep in mind, though, is that if you don't have your funds fully raised by June 30th, you haven't reached your minimum by then, you won't be kicked off the Bike Rally at that point. Don't worry, don't stress. Instead, what will happen is you'll get probably one of your team captains contacting you, asking you what sort of help you need to meet your goal. How, do you want to talk to Yannick? What can we do to help you get there? They may also, at the PWA office, ask for your credit card so that when we come to the day before we leave, that's packing day, if you still haven't met your minimum by then, that's August 6th, I believe, then you will be charged to your credit card for the difference between your minimum and what you've actually raised. Or if you choose, you can just opt out and say, no, thanks. I don't want to be part of the Bike Rally this year. It's your choice. So in other words, you're in control and you're the one who decides when you're going to fundraise, when you're going to meet the minimum, and ultimately whether or not you're going to be able to participate in the ride. Stay connected with the Bike Rally through the e-news emails you get. There, of course, the Facebook posts. There's Instagram as well. There's the Bike Rally website where we've got the calendar, training and support information. Another important point, get your bike tuned up and get fit for your bike now if you can. Like, get this done really soon. You're going to find that, In fact, today is such a nice day out there. I'll bet you there are already lineups and lots of people going into bike stores with their bikes saying, I want my bike tuned up. And you don't want to be at the back of that line because you could end up waiting weeks and weeks. So get your bike tuned up as soon as you can so that when we come to outdoor training in April, you and your bike are ready to go. And if you're not already fit on your bike, in other words, for example, you've got a new bike that you haven't rode much, you should get a proper fit to make sure that you've got the most comfortable and efficient experience on your bike that you can. Every bike store will do a fit. Most of them charge a fee for it, but the place where you bought your bike may offer it for free. So make sure you start your training too. Do your training frequently, do it consistently, especially if you're new to cycling. Get your body gradually in shape to ride to Montreal. And the last point here, get your camping gear together. Go out and shop for it now for anything you can think of that you don't have before supplies run out and before people start the mad rush for buying camping supplies in spring when everyone starts wanting to go out camping. So a few important email addresses for you. We're here to help you. If you have questions about bike gear, about nutrition, or how to train, you can email me and Steve. We are training@bikerally.org. Fundraising, your questions can go to fundraising@bikerally.org, and that's Yannick. And if you need help from the PWA staff, for example, you want to borrow a bike trainer, you've got questions about how PWA operates or what that sort of thing, you can contact Emma Cole. She is emccubbin@pwatoronto.org. And I think that wraps it up for our presentation. It does. So if there are any questions, we are here to take them. And no question is a dumb question, by the way. Most of you are new to this experience, and we are really happy to answer your questions, and they're all good questions.
Thank you so much. I have a quick question just because we're coming from California. I've heard rumors that there are people that can help us with the tents and things like that. Like, we're good with packing our jerseys and our clothes and everything, but should we plan on shipping tents over, or can we borrow tents or rent tents? Like, what's the best situation for that?
Good question. The PWA office does have tents that they lend out, although I think they do it on a needs basis. So in other words, if you're short on funds, they'll typically lend you a tent. So you may not be in line for that if you have the funds to supply your own tent. You can contact Emma Cole at the email that I've got that I presented on that slide. It's emccubbin@pwatoronto.org, and ask her about availability of tents. I don't know what the answer will be. So two alternatives. One would be to buy a small enough tent that you can pack it into whatever it is that you're taking on the airplane with you. My tent, I know, is small enough for that, but that also means my tent only fits me and I can't actually stand up in it. It's a really small tent. And other alternatives, I don't know if there are places in Toronto that rent tents out. There might be. I can look that up for you. But I guess in the worst case, you can buy a tent before the ride, right, when you get here. So.
But also, we could possibly put out a call for people who have extra tents,
yeah,
and who may be able to lend you one. I think that's one of the most likely things.
Sure. Yeah. And in fact, if you go on to the Facebook group, Friends for Life Bike Rally on Facebook, and you post saying, hey, I'm in California, I'm doing the ride this year, really looking forward to it. Does anyone have a tent they can lend me? You will probably get a lot of replies. So that would actually, thanks, Steve. That's a great suggestion. So find someone there who's got one to lend you, who's doing the rally this year, or that you can meet in Toronto, and you should be set that way. So Wendy is suggesting an organization called Free Cycle. Free Cycle must be an organization that lends out gear to cyclists. I'm guessing. I don't know it personally.
No, it's actually a website that they're trying to keep stuff out of landfill. So you can offer stuff for free to people on it, things that might you ordinarily throw out, but some people have an interest in fixing, or just stuff that you want that other people might be trying to get rid of. So if you say, I need a tent, somebody might be trying to clean out their garage and they have a tent, and you might get a tent for free.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
and then freecycle.org. And when you're done with the tent, you can always give it to PWA. I'm sure they'd be happy to hold on to it as a loaner for future years. Free Cycle, I guess the only caveat I would have is some people might end up giving you a tent that's old and leaky, so you may not like that. So I really like Steve's idea first, if you can try it, and that is to go on the Facebook group and ask there. You'll get some good answers there, I'm pretty sure.
That's perfect. Thanks. I'll go on the group.
Although don't forget our guarantee that it won't rain.
Yeah, our guarantee that it won't rain. Yeah, right. Ha ha ha.
I just have a couple of general questions.
Sure.
How many people usually do the 1-day ride? I think last time I looked, there were only 11 people signed up for the 1-day ride. But that
Yeah, it
was
is.
quite a while ago.
It's a very small number currently. I think it's still fewer than 20. It definitely enough people that they can fit them onto one tour bus to get home. I know that for sure. We've never had more than one bus go back the first day, and a bus would typically fit, what, 60 people? So we never exceeded that. So I would guess it's 20 or so. I think the people who register the latest for the ride, like if someone registers in June or July, they're probably going to do the 1-day ride. So the number will keep ticking upward as we get closer to the ride. But it'll still be probably in the dozens, 12, 24, 36 people doing it.
The nice thing about the 1-day ride for the bike rally is it's the entry drug to the whole rally. Why didn't I do the 6 days?
Yeah, you'll be hooked.
Yeah.
Oh, and is there a deadline to sign up for the 1-day ride?
I think they want people signed up by June 30th, I'm guessing, because that's the fundraising deadline. So they wouldn't want people, they'll probably make exceptions though. If you are willing to sign up in July and guarantee that you will have the minimum funds raised by the end of July, which could be your own funds primarily, then I'm sure they would accept that too. So I don't know of a specific deadline.
I'm trying to get some people to come with me, but so far no luck.
Okay.
I'll be with you.
Was that it, Wendy, or did you have other questions? Okay. So Philip is asking, will there be designated spots where we can fill our bottles up along the way? Absolutely. The spots are the break stops primarily. So we get on so you're doing the 1-day ride, Philip, you'll find that there's a break in Scarborough that's about 25 kilometers in, where you fill up your water bottle, and then you'll get to lunch in Oshawa. You can fill up there, and then you'll have an afternoon break just outside Newmarket, fill up there, and of course you get into camp, and there's lots of water there. If that's still not enough for you, or maybe you need a washroom before you get to a break, we do ride through small towns here and there, so you can count on some other places to stop, but just be warned, we're on pretty quiet roads for most days that we ride, so it's not guaranteed you'll find a stop everywhere. You might have to space it out, but I find every 25, 30K for a break, whether it's water or food or washroom, is good enough for me.
Yeah, assuming you have 2 water bottles, you shouldn't have a problem, because you won't be going much more than 25 kilometers between a break.
Yeah, but a good point, Steve. Having 2 water bottles on your bike and get a second cage if you need it for your second water bottle is really important. I would not do this ride with just 1 water bottle, and especially not a training ride. The training rides, you've got to have 2 bottles because the chances to refill are really small on some of the training rides.
And we do sometimes have water available in the sweet cars and that, but again, it's happenstance whether you come across them.
Yep. Any other questions? Well, hopefully, given that we've got some good questions and had a good chat, we've got you sort of excited about the bike rally. This is, trust me, it'll probably be the highlight of your summer, if not your whole year. So
also, if you just want to text us, you have our contact information, and also your team leaders. They'll answer anything you need.
Yeah, your team captains are your best source of questions and answers for sure to start with. And if they don't know the answer, they'll get it for you. It's not an issue for them. So, all right, I think I'm going to stop the recording now.